Welcome everyone to the 2011 Alumni Awards ceremony, a wonderful annual event in the life of the law school. I have two brief roles here. One is to recognize the Board of Managers of the Law Alumni Society, many of whom are here, who selected from a fairly distinguished group of nominees this year's winners. So the Board of Managers work very hard at this every year. They debate it. There's lots of discussion about it to come up with what we hope will be a reflection of the great work that University of Pennsylvania Law School alumni do every day to represent the law school, and we hope the law school reflects well on them. They certainly reflect well on the law school. And tonight we're very lucky. This really is a celebration of the 1970s, specifically Chandra, with all due respect to the young alumni, a celebration of the 1970s, and specifically since Jim Sandman couldn't come down from Washington, he'll be on a video, it's a celebration of the women of the 1970s. And see, there you go. And even more broadly, an extraordinary Law Alumni Society ceremony, because I believe this is the first time in the history of the Law Alumni Awards where every recipient has firmly touched the public interest, public service, from either, in Jim Sandman's case, you'll hear from the private sector perspective, from Professor Austin, from here at the law school, and from public interest lawyers out and around. So this is, from top to bottom, all public interest, with the exception of Chandra, all 1970s graduates, and a wonderful group. And as a second piece, to present the awards, it's really my honor to introduce a man who, for this group, needs no introduction, Dean Fitz. Dean Fitz has been here, as many of you know, since 2000 as dean. In his 11th year, one of the longest serving deans in history, was reappointed last year of the Penn Law School. And has really been, longest serving is good. Don't you be laughing. No, I'm not thinking it at all. It has been in the forefront of integrating legal teaching and scholarship with approaches from related disciplines, and you've all heard that from the dean. It really makes Penn one of the hallmark law schools in the country. The 30 cross-disciplinary programs that Dean Fitz has instituted, helped nurture here at the law school, are its hallmark. The only thing that Dean Fitz has not done well over his long and distinguished career is get his bachelor's from Harvard and his JD from the Yale Law School. But since that time, he straightened himself out. He clerked for Judge Higginbotham on the Third Circuit, which is one of the many reasons Judge Higginbotham's picture is the first picture you see when you come up the stairs. And he is currently the president of the American Law Deans Society. So it's my great pleasure to introduce a man who, for this group, needs no introduction, Dean Mike Fitz.
Well, first of all, thank you, Rick, and I just want to take this opportunity to sort of say something publicly about what a phenomenal job Rick Davino has done as president of the Law Alumni Society. You sort of recognize the quality of an institution by the relationships, the involvement of its alumni. And over the years, one of the proudest parts of Penn Law School has been the involvement, the identity of the alumni with the law school. But Rick has absolutely brought it to a new level, both in expanding the board and involving so many different people in the institution, alumni clubs, events, everything. And needless to say, I get constant calls from Rick, why aren't you doing this, why aren't you doing that? And he's 99.9% of the time, he's right. And he thinks he's right 100% of the time. And he may be, I'll find out. Right. Anyway, I want to give him a round of applause just for... Now, needless to say, as the greatness of a legal institution is also signified by the greatness of its alumni. And those of us who are involved in legal education, what we think about is, in a sense, what impact this law school has on the society at large. And when we're law students, we're sort of wondering, what will we be doing? And what's great about law is, as you step back and think about it, it has the capacity to, in a sense, revolutionize society in every different way. And today, we're recognizing a group of people who simply, in every area of the law, have made such a difference, and quite candidly, made this society a better place. And they bring honor, I think, not only to themselves and the legal profession, but of course, Penn Law School. So I want to sort of go through, and we'll introduce each and talk a little bit about what a difference they made. We'll start with the Young Alumni Award of Merit. You're an old dean when everybody who wins the Young Alumni Award of Merit, you've actually handed them their degree. And now I think it's legally impossible for me to hand out a Young Alumni Award of Merit to anybody who hasn't been here when I've been dean. It's someone who graduated in the last 10 years from the law school. Chandra Bhatnagar, I remember him well here at the law school, and he really was a public interest dynamo at this institution. Today, he is senior staff attorney at the Human Rights Program at the American Civil Liberties Union, but has spent his entire life, I think, focused on the rights of immigrants. And this is one of the most important issues in our society, and one of the most issues that brings out such divisions in our society, but and yet at the same time is critical to both the United States and the world. I could go through all the different activities involved. He's been involved in. After Katrina, he was down in New Orleans protecting immigrants, illegal immigrants who were in jail and in prison after that. He's gone back to India, where he's of Indian descent, where he represented Indian victims of trafficking who were put in abuse and servitude. He's been in Puerto Rico, where he's represented individuals who are accused of police brutality. He's been around the world, involved in a whole series of different activities. It was evident sort of his passion when he first was here at the law school. He was a public interest scholar, and while here received the Meacham Public Service Award. During law school, as I mentioned, one summer he was at the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Another, he worked for the Bonded Labor Liberation Front in India. He lived in a single room without air conditioning or running water during that time, representing literally hundreds of the thousands of Indian children who've been sold into slavery and bonded labor. Obviously, when somebody like this is at Penn Law School, he's remembered well by the faculty. Lou Ruley, who's now the director of the Gitta Center for Clinical Legal Education, speaks of him with great fondness and said, early on, we all knew that we were in the presence of a great future human rights lawyer. After he graduated from the law school, he first went to Columbia, where he served as assistant director of the Human Rights Project, worked on issues from affirmative action to juvenile justice. Then he worked as a staff attorney and was a Skadden Fellow at the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, and then on to the ACLU. The rest really is history. It's hard to believe he's only 10 years out of this law school. I want to just quote one thing he said, which I think defines his life. He said, "The U.S. should do more to create fair, humane policies and conditions for immigrant communities in this country. The government must match its soaring rhetoric on the importance of human rights globally with a renewed commitment to protecting the rights of vulnerable immigrants here at home." We've seen the impact of his passion in this area in India, in New Orleans, in Puerto Rico, and across the United States. He's somebody who clearly has matched those words with effort. So it's a great pleasure and honor to award him the Young Alumni Award of Merit.
this down very carefully. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dean Fitz. I'm very humbled by your kind introduction. I'd like to also thank Nancy Rasmussen for her logistical assistance in preparing for tonight's events. I really want to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to Dean Fitz, to President DeVino, and to the University of Pennsylvania Law Alumni Society for this great honor. I'm truly humbled. I'd also like to acknowledge the other awardees, and particularly Professor Regina Austin, who was a wonderful teacher and mentor to myself and many of my classmates, as well as Professor Rulli, who was wonderful to see and who really inspired myself and many classmates to pursue a career in public interest law and help us to envision what it was that we wanted to achieve. I'm most honored to share the stage with all of them this evening. I'd also like to thank those in my family who made it possible for me to be where I am today, beginning with my wife, Sunitha, who's also a human rights lawyer at the Center for Constitutional Rights. My mother, of course, most importantly, Uma Bhatnagar, and all of my family for their ongoing love and support. Also, all of my teachers, and especially Professor Kimberly Crenshaw for her friendship, mentorship, and guidance through the years, as well as my colleagues at the ACLU and the Asian American Legal Defense Fund. I also would like to acknowledge my extraordinary clients. As a human rights lawyer, over the past 10 years, I've had the opportunity to represent and fight alongside some of the most noble and courageous people on this earth. If you look to Egypt, if you look to Tunisia, if you look to movements for freedom throughout the world, you see that they're led by immigrants, by women, by LGBT people, by young people, by racial or ethnic minorities. It's people like that that create social change, and these people are the engines of social movements, and as lawyers, it's our great privilege to serve them and to work alongside them. With all of that being said, I would like to dedicate this award to one special person, Professor Luke Charles Harris. Without the influence and support of Professor Harris, I literally would not stand before you today. As an 18-year-old freshman at Vassar College, having had no lawyers in my family and having never even met an attorney of color, I had the great fortune of crossing paths with an African-American Vassar College professor / Yale Law School graduate / Princeton PhD / Fulbright scholar who clerked alongside our beloved Dean Fitz for Judge Higginbotham. And Professor Harris literally has accomplished enough in 2 lifetimes, yet he took the time to take a young Indian student under his wing and give me the confidence and wise counsel to figure out my priorities and then figure out a path to accomplish those goals. Professor Harris has been a close friend, mentor, and surrogate uncle for the past 18 years. He's literally changed my life, and I dedicate this award to him and to all those people of great accomplishment, many of whom are in this room, who take the time and effort to support young people and enable them to realize their dreams. I'd like to express my deep gratitude to all of you again. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
I must say I didn't know that Chandra knew Luke until earlier this evening. And I must say, as somebody who clerked with Luke, with Judge Higginbotham, I know he would be not only, as he was, incredibly proud of Luke, but he would be incredibly proud of the generational education going down to Chandra. So congratulations. That's wonderful. The second award this evening is the Howard Lesnick Pro Bono Award, which is awarded to an individual who's combined significant private career with substantial public service. Now, I want to just say a brief note about the name of the award, the Howard Lesnick Award. It was named after Howard Lesnick, who was the George Washington, the Madison of the public service program here at the University of Pennsylvania. It was really his vision and initiative that led the faculty back in the 1980s to create the award, and we could think of nobody better to name it after than Howard Lesnick. So when you're talking about the Constitution and James Madison is in the room, I thought we should all give him a hand. I should also note that Howard taught a number of the people in this room. Howard didn't like me making that comment. This year, the award goes to somebody who just epitomizes in every way Howard Lesnick's ideals and the spirit of this world award, James Sandman, class of 1976. Jim was, unfortunately, had to give a speech down in Arizona. He was at the law school last week and recorded remarks, which you'll see in a moment. But I just want to take a moment to tell you about this remarkable individual. He was recently named by the Legal Times one of the greatest Washington lawyers, 90 lawyers, of the last 30 years. And anybody who knows Jim, who has seen him, understands the reason for that. He graduated from the law school in 1976 and clerked for the Honorable Max Rosen, Penn Law graduate on the Third Circuit. Anybody who knew Max, sort of a kind, gentle, but incredibly intelligent, dedicated individual to his community, knows that he was such an inspiration to Jim, and in many respects, Jim epitomizes who Max Rosen and what he was about. Jim went from that clerkship to Arnold and Porter and became an exceptional litigator and partner at Arnold and Porter. But anybody who knew him, and I spoke to someone once who knew him as a young associate, they knew when he was a fourth-year associate he was going to become managing partner of the firm. This was somebody who was sort of destined to be a leader. He did become managing partner and served in that role for 10 years at that famed firm, but he was truly a visionary in that role. He was absolutely dedicated to the commitment of Arnold and Porter in pro bono and led that effort in the District of Columbia. He was absolutely committed to diversity in the firm and was also very much involved in creating a culture there and was beloved by everybody at the firm. When he finished his term, he later became president of the District of Columbia Bar, the second largest bar in the United States, and clearly one of, if not the most respected. From that, just to underscore their second, third, fourth acts in life, he moved on to become general counsel for the District of Columbia, where he worked with Chancellor Michelle Rhee on all the innovative reforms in the school district. And I remember speaking to Jim when he took on that real challenge. And he was absolutely mesmerized by her and absolutely dedicated to improving the education in the District of Columbia. When she stepped down, he then moved on to become president of the Legal Services Corporation, which is the position he currently holds. And again, I remember talking to Jim about this position. He understood that he was going to be, you don't want to say in the eye of the hurricane, he was going to be the hurricane, and he was going to be in the middle of the Washington firestorm. But he did it because he was absolutely dedicated, just as he was to the children of the District of Columbia, but the poor who were served by the Legal Services Corporation. Again, he's an example of somebody who's had a commitment throughout his career to public service, even as he moved through a variety of private activities. He epitomizes, I think, this award, he epitomizes, I think, the ideals of Max Rosen, what Howard Lesnick was thinking when he established the public service program. And finally, I think he epitomizes the ideals of Penn Law School. So it is a real pleasure to award Jim Sandman with the Howard Lesnick Award.
I am so grateful to receive the Howard Lesnick Pro Bono Award. There are several reasons why this award means so much to me, and I'm very sorry that I can't be there today in person to accept it. Appropriately enough, I'm in Arizona today speaking at a pro bono conference. Penn Law played a very important role in forming me as a lawyer, and there is nothing like being honored by an institution that helped to form you. If I've done anything in my career that Penn looks favorably on, I've done something good, and I really appreciate the recognition. I'm also particularly honored to receive an award that bears the name of Howard Lesnick. I had Professor Lesnick in my first year as a law student. He taught a course called Income Security, and he played a very significant role in my introduction to the law. I remember him vividly. He was passionate about what he did, and his passion was contagious. As grateful as I am for this award, I don't really deserve it compared to the people who, to me, are the real heroes of our profession. To me, the heroes are the people who devote the entirety of their careers full-time to the service of others, whether as legal aid lawyers or public interest lawyers or public servants, people like Marcia Greenberger, whom you're honoring today. Whatever I've done, I think, pales in comparison to what they've done, but I accept the award with pleasure nevertheless. Thank you so much.
That was classic Jim Sandman, always looking to the efforts of people around him, and that's why I think why he's made such a difference everywhere that he's been. We're now, the third honoree this evening is the recipient of the Alumni Award of Merit for Professional Achievement and Service, and this year the recipient is Lynn Marks. Lynn graduated from the law school in 1979, and since then has been one of the leading public interest lawyers, not only in Philadelphia, but nationally. And I must say, even though she has really is a New Yorker, but saw the better light to come to Philadelphia. We call this the Rendell effect here in Philadelphia, and has made it her home since and made such a difference here within this community. You can really divide her career in two parts in which she's had a major impact. In the first half, she was advocating for victims of domestic abuse and violence. First as the legal director and then ultimately the executive director of the Women Organized Against Rape. And in that capacity, she really worked tirelessly at a time when I think these issues were not as visible or as recognized as perhaps they are today, tirelessly on behalf of women's rights to privacy. In 1981, she successfully argued a case before the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, establishing that a rape victim's interview with a crisis counselor was confidential and could not be turned over to the accused. In the second part of her career, Lynn has truly looked passionately at the courts of the United States and in Pennsylvania, serving as the executive director of Pennsylvanians for Modern Courts, a position she took over in 1990. And over the last 21 years, she's been a passionate advocate for depoliticizing the courts and eliminating bias in the courts in their selection and diversifying the courts. Now, to do this is required an ability to meet, lobby with a whole variety of different constituencies, media, legislature, governors, and the like. But Lynn Marks has done this with absolute aplomb. She's also been a huge advocate and very successful in underscoring the importance of diversity on juries and ways in which we need to decrease racial, ethnic, and gender bias. For those of us in law school, we spend our time thinking about what comes out of courts, decisions, and so on. But equally important, and in some sense more important, is the structure of the courts. Who are the decision makers? How we select those decision makers. In the end, that's probably more important and in determining the outcome. Needless to say, what somebody said of Lynn, quote, "A review of Lynn Marks' resume is a history course in some of the most pressing public policy issues of our time." Needless to say, her activities have not escaped the notice of a number of different organizations. Her honors include the Philadelphia Bar Association's Alexander Hamilton Award, Sandra Day O'Connor Award, the American Juridical Society Special Merit Award, and the Special Commendation from the Legal Intelligencer, which named her one of the 50 most influential women in the legal profession in Pennsylvania. It really is both an honor and a delight to award Lynn Marks, somebody who's been a mentor to students, a stalwart member of the public interest community, but most importantly, somebody who's passionately improved the quality of the courts here in Pennsylvania with an Alumni Award of Merit. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really beautiful. I wish I could hire you. You actually spoke better about the courts than I do. I think I need some of your lines. So thank you, Dean Fitz, Rick Davino, and the entire Law Alumni Association for this really sweet award. And it's all the sweeter because I have such respect for the other honorees. Congratulations to each of you, and you're even better in person than on paper. I had two significant meetings here, and the here is a little different than the here was then. The first was 35 years ago in 1976. I had worked for 5 years after college, and I had landed the job of my dreams as the first director of the New York State Planned Parenthood Advocacy Office. So I came here to speak with then Dean Lou Pollack to tell him I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to law school and could I have my admission deferred. And he convinced me that I would be a better public interest lobbyist if I had a law degree. So who quarrels with, Lou Pollack? So the next year, I met with then Dean Phyllis Beck to tell her that I thought I wanted to drop out because I had gotten the second offer of my dreams to work at Planned Parenthood in Washington, and quite frankly, I was really struggling being a student again. She convinced me that I would be a better public interest advocate if I had a law degree. So what wise person doesn't agree with Judge Beck? So within a month, probably within months after graduation, I learned that both of them were correct. I became the legal director and then executive director of Women Organized Against Rape here in Philadelphia. And when I taught police detectives about best practices for dealing with rape victims, their attitude toward me changed dramatically when they realized I was a lawyer. And when I trained prosecutors in the recently formed district attorney's office, their reaction to me shifted when they learned that I had the same degree as they did, and they really perked up when they learned I went to Penn. So was it my stellar legal ability or my label as a lawyer or a combination? Who knows, but it was a reality. And I haven't always known exactly what I was going to do with the law degree, but I never wavered from the fact that I wanted that degree as a tool to effectuate social and legal change. So I'd like to thank publicly now Judge Pollack for convincing me to come to Penn, and my now good friend Phyllis Beck for encouraging me to stick it out. And of course I had to give both of them my speech. They were sorry that they can't be here today, but Judge Pollack made my day when he said that he was proud to be a co-conspirator with Judge Beck. And finally, thanks to my colleagues in the public interest community. Many of you are here and you know who you are. And thank you for reminding me regularly and by example of the power of a law degree. I'm glad that my family is here, and I'm really proud that Penn Law School is recognizing the importance of public interest law. Thank you again.
Thank you, Lynn. That was beautiful. I must say the question comes up when a law student comes into our offices and wonders whether they should drop out of law school. And I now know I'm going to send them to Lynn. The Distinguished Service Award for Penn Law School is known as the GOAT. And indeed, the statue that we give out is a statue of the GOAT. I don't think I need to tell anybody in this room what the GOAT is. It has been the sort of the center of this institution for close to 50 years. We've fixed it up in the last year or so and spiffed it up. But it's been sort of the heart of the institution. It is supposed to have supernatural ability, not only determining guilt, but also good and evil. And obviously the moral conscience in many respects of the world around it. This year's recipient of the Distinguished Service Award is somebody I think who in so many ways epitomizes these qualities. Regina Austin, Professor Regina Austin, is somebody who has been concerned all of her life about good and evil and the ways to make the institutions around her better. She has also been deeply concerned with Penn Law School and has been connected to it now for on the faculty for over 30 years. And so is really sort of in both ways such a wonderful recipient of this award, the Distinguished Service Award. She, on the faculty, I should say, she's been a scholar who has written in a number of different areas with both precision and depth. She's considered one of the leading scholars in the area of feminist law and a provocative thinker on the role of status of women in the society. Her article on environmental racism is considered a classic. She's also written extensively on the impact of culture in our country and how culture affects law. And that, I think, naturally has led to another area in which she's really done path-breaking work, which is visual advocacy. That is, she's understood the value of law beyond sort of the written word. She began in writing in the area of torts and insurance, but in recent years has thought about the ways in which media and movies can impact people and impact their perceptions and understanding in very different ways. As part of that, she's become director of the Penn program on documentaries and the law. I want to quote something she said about this area, which I think picks up its importance. She said, "Doctrinal analysis and the kind of formalistic analysis that you find in many opinions does not get you to the heart of the controversy in many cases, and the process of judicial decision-making leaves out too much of the context." As part of that, she's been involved with students in putting together really amazing documentaries and videos. She's hooked up with a variety of filmmakers in the video department here in the university. And these are films that she's shown to the faculty and staff. She holds a conference every year on visual advocacy where she brings in members of the bar to think about this new genre, and also has used it very effectively in the community at large. Needless to say, she's somebody who's very much involved in technology, something the dean is a Luddite in, so I look to her to give me advice in that regard. She has been a trailblazer, needless to say, since she came out of high school. She attended University of Rochester, where she was a scholar and activist at a young age. When the African American students sat in, took over the faculty club at the time. Remember this, I was going to say this is the 60s, but seeing what's going on at City Hall, 2011 as well. But she came up with the defense for the group of protesters of the necessity defense, which was quite novel at that point in time. Somebody like that obviously went on to law school. She came to Penn, graduated in 1973 at the top of her class, clerked for the legendary Ned Spaeth on the court here, and then joined the law firm of Schneider Harrison. I say that because at Schneider she came under the watchful eye, the tutelage of Bernie Siegel, who, as we know, was not only his portrait stands there, but was one of the first Jewish president of the American Bar Association, founder of the American Civil Rights Under Law. And Bernie was mesmerized by this young Penn Law graduate and was very delighted when she was hired by Penn Law School, and then went on, as we know, to have the Schneider professorship here at Penn Law School. I could mention a number of other things about Regina that are very very special in terms of quality. She's involved in the community, the life of the city, is a member of the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations. As I said, she's the conscience. She's constantly thinking about what makes the institutions around her better places for everyone there. She's deeply devoted to her students, and both in not only first-year teaching, but through visual advocacy. And she obviously is deeply devoted to Penn Law School as a graduate and a member of this faculty for over 30 years. So it gives me great pleasure and honor to honor Professor Regina Austin.
Anybody who knows me knows that I'm shy. That was almost embarrassing. How'd you find out that stuff about what I did when I was in college? Yeah, I used to have a lot of hair too. I want to thank everybody who is connected with tonight's honors. I am very honored to receive this award, and I'm very honored to receive it with my co-awardees, particularly Chandra, who's one of my students. I have to say that I'm pretty astonished also by the recognition for reasons too numerous to delineate. As one of my students said when I met her on the street, she thought it was a miracle that I was going to get this award. But I suspect that it represents the payoff for following two adages that I try to live by. One, never be your own best cause. There's always somebody worse off than you. And two, never let your enemies set your agenda. And I think that is what I have done. I'm obviously very devoted to the law school and very devoted to my colleagues and to the students of the law school, both past and present. And that has meant that this has been my life's work, and I'm pretty happy about that. There are times when I do get a little down, like when I realized that when I joined the faculty in 1977, I was the second black on the faculty. And as I leave the faculty or get close to retirement, I'm still one of only two blacks on the faculty. But I do take heart, and I keep going. And as I said, I never let my enemies set my agenda. And so I keep going. And that's really important, because I think that by going and going and going, I've come to my true calling. Helping my students and other lawyers learn the virtues of making videos to advocate on behalf of social justice and public interest causes and clients, what we call here at Penn visual legal advocacy, is in some ways my true calling. I believe that visual legal advocacy will allow lawyers to give clients, to give real people a greater opportunity to speak on their own behalf, to address the legal problems that they have. And I think that's a wonderful, wonderful development. And so I take every opportunity to direct potential viewers to the videos that my students have made, which you can find on the Penn Law Docs and the Law website, or on our own YouTube channel. And I urge you to go look at what my students have done. I'm very proud of them. I'm proud of their creativity, their resourcefulness, and their willingness to take risks, including the risk of working with a crazy old black liberal feminist teacher like myself. It's the students who have taken on the challenge over the past few decades of working with me and helping me learn, and learning in return, that have made my job on the faculty the very best possible one I could ever have. So thank you.
Rick stole the goat. That was beautiful, Regina. It really was. I should mention that Regina is also the hardest working member of this institution I have ever seen. I see her here at all times because she's somebody who's absolutely not only devoted to her students and her work, but to Penn Law School. So thank you. Our final award is the James Wilson Award, named for James Wilson, who is the first law professor here at the University of Pennsylvania, framer of the Constitution, somebody who really defined the American Constitution. And the award has gone to some of the greatest luminaries of the legal profession over the years, as well as people who've defined various sectors within our society. It is truly a Lifetime Achievement Award, and we are really truly proud to present this award this year to Marcia Greenberger. She is somebody who, looking over the time when she graduated from this law school, redefined the constitutional and equality framework here in the United States. Like Regina, she's been a feminist and an advocate and an indefatigable fighter for women's rights, a legend at the bar in Philadelphia, in Washington, like a few others. There are only a few groups really that come to mind when one thinks of influential organization in America working on behalf of women's rights. The National Organization for Women, the National Abortion and Reproductive Rights Action League, better known as NARAL, and the National Women's Law Center, which was founded and led by Marcia Greenberger. She was the first full-time women's rights legal advocate in Washington. Under her leadership over the last 30 years, the National Women's Rights Law Center has tackled almost every significant issue important to women in the United States, seeking equality in education, in health, and employment. She has scored victories in the fight against sexual discrimination, leading to durable gains that have literally changed this country in areas such as equitable pay, child support, and sexual harassment. It is really no exaggeration to call her, of Penn Law School and the legal profession, our Betty Friedan. Her impact has been that significant. I also should say, like Regina and many of the people here, she shares that 60s gene. She attended both the university and the law school, graduating in 1970. And it was a time, I must confess, when few women went to law school. There were only 10 women in her law school class that graduated at that year. She remembers being told, nevertheless, that she was taking the seat of a male student at the time because she was at the law school. The disparity followed her, I have to say, when she started her first job in Washington. She started as a tax lawyer, but she was the only lawyer, the only woman working at the firm. She was interested in public policy, but my guess at the time, really, the idea of a legal women's rights advocate really was not on the horizon. She really didn't contemplate a career fighting for women's rights then. But there was a life-changing moment, and I have to say she gave a law and entrepreneurship lecture here several years ago that encapsulated this period wonderfully. It was at the Center for Law and Social Policy in the 1970s, and the secretaries there went on strike, demanding that the organization should establish a women's law, or hire a women's law person. It was that which led to the hiring of Marcia, and truly the rest is history. What she's achieved and what the center has achieved on their behalf over the last 40 years is extraordinary. I mean, if you just step back, students in the room, this is hard to believe what existed before recently, but the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, one of President Obama's first piece of legislation, the Civil Rights Act of 1999, which provided critical protections for against sexual harassment, the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, which forbid employers from excluding pregnancy from disability coverage, things like the opening of the Citadel and VMI to women, government and funded enforcement of hiring of women. The list really goes on in terms of the number of victories. Things have changed dramatically in our world, and Marcia really has had a lead effort in all of these issues. I should mention she does have a deep Penn connection. Her husband, Michael Greenberger, who is a very distinguished Washington lawyer and professor at Maryland, was in her class in 1970. They have two children who graduated from Penn undergraduate, and their daughter Sarah graduated from this law school in 2005. And I think we can see the changes in the legal profession over that time. Sarah's class had more than 10 women, and you'd be glad to know that our current class is 50% women, a little bit different than it was in 1970. Again, I can't say it and underscore it important enough. The world has changed. Women are running companies, holding public office at all except one level at this point, 2 levels. They're on the Supreme Court, receiving health care benefits. The list goes on and on. But these advances and the advances that are going to continue over the next years are really the result of the passion, the devotion, the commitment of Marcia Greenberg over the last 40 years. She's somebody who epitomizes public service, but commitment and advocacy on behalf of the profession. And so it really is an honor, and I think honor for everybody in this room, to award her the James Wilson Award from the University of Pennsylvania.
Well, I could say I'm speechless, especially as the last person, but I don't want to miss this chance to give some of the thank yous, and only a few of the ones that are so well deserved before all of you. And Dean Fitz, that was just an extraordinary introduction, and my mother, who is sitting here that I'm so proud of, really believed every word of it. Well, my heartfelt thanks to the Alumni Society. It is an organization that includes some of my dearest lifelong friends. As you've heard, my husband, Michael, who has been my life partner now for only 42 years, I guess, and his devotion to the law and his career has been an extraordinary inspiration for me in mine. And as you heard, my daughter Sarah, who is a public interest lawyer now, serving in the government, and loved Penn Law and was a beneficiary of the extraordinary support for public interest service and government service that Penn Law epitomizes. I am especially lucky, aren't I, that I graduated in the class of 1970. Now that I know that there was a 70s theme to this, I just slipped my way in. And so I can tell you a little bit about how it was in the very beginning of that decade. My labor law professor at the time, Howard Lesnick, was part of an extraordinary faculty that, although there were not some of the formal programs in place in those days, became the kind of inspiration and role model not only for me but many of my classmates and obviously many other lawyers around the country and students at Penn Law that followed to use their law license to make trouble in the cause of justice and positive change over time. Jefferson Fordham was the dean of the law school at the time, who was truly a giant in the bar, an extraordinary gentleman, the classiest kind of gentleman you could imagine, very handsome, who put himself on the line around civil rights and civil justice and had a nationwide reputation for his courage as a result. And I could go on, Ed Sparrow and others. So this law school, I was so proud to get a degree from Penn Law, and I've been proud every time anybody asks me where I went to law school through all these years. And now it's been so many years that the GOAT didn't need any renovating when we were there. It was pretty new at that point. I couldn't be more proud to be a Penn Law grad today. And I want to tell you finally, as the last speaker, that the law and the law degree has opened up for me the most rewarding career that I could imagine having. And I am so grateful to Penn Law for being as welcoming as it was. And in those days, law schools were not very welcoming, and I have my stories, my war stories to tell about the law school, but I tell them with great fondness and great gratitude, because I had mentors throughout the time that I was in law school who thought that I could do it and encouraged me, and were people who I went back to for help and support over the years. And I cannot tell you, and this is something that my other extraordinary honorees have mentioned as well, not only how rewarding it is to be in their company, but also what an extraordinary and gratifying thing it is to get an award of this sort from an institution and from an alumni society filled with people who you love and respect and have been such a central part of your life, as is the case with Penn and Penn Law. So thank you so very, very much.
That was beautiful. I'm not going to say anything more. That was just beautiful. I am frequently asked about why somebody should go to law school and why they should go to Penn Law School. And I say there are a number of things I talk about, but I think the best reason is what you just saw on these awardees. The greatness of this institution is the effect, the impact that its graduates have had. And what we've seen today is a group of individuals who have redefined so many areas of our country, whether it's in the public schools or in New Orleans or in women's rights or even changing law firms. And they really honor us here at the law school from everything they have done. I wanted to just leave everyone here with one quote before I invite you all out to have drinks and celebrate our awardees, from William James, who said, "The greatest thing in life is to spend it on something that outlasts us." And in fact, what I can see in all of these cases is their effect on our society will live on for years, decades, and on. So thank you all, and most of all, thank all of the different awardees.